Is it time to panic, Eagles fans? I mean, look, on the one hand, you can say, hey, it's great that they just didn't rush into grabbing a new offensive coordinator. Let's do some research. Let's interview a bunch of people, make sure we get the right person in place because we all know, because we've seen it, both sides of the issue, what a good offensive coordinator, what a good play caller means to the success of this team. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. Appreciate all your support. Hope you all are staying safe and warm and dry if you are actually a Philly fan in the area because it is nasty outside. But check this out. This is all stuff in the last few days that I want to run through you and kind of give you the good and bad, why I think this is an issue, or maybe it isn't. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. But check this out. We've got let's run through it. LSU offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss spoke to the Philadelphia Eagles about their offensive coordinator vacancy, but informed the team he has chosen to remain with Lane Kifflin and the Tigers. And then we have, let's see if let me make sure I have this on here for you. All right. Yeah, here we go. News Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith is expected to become the next offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And then we have former Giants interim coach Mike Kafka is joining the Lions in a high-ranking offensive staff role per sources. Been a finalist for multiple head coaching jobs in recent years. We also know that that was someone that the Eagles were purportedly interested in for their offensive coordinator position. We already know about guys like Mike McDaniel, and then we also have Declan Doyle, which was one that was talked about a lot. He's withdrawn his name from consideration for the Eagles' offensive coordinator vacancy to stay on with the Bears. So, yeah, it's we're going down that list. We're burning through numbers. And here's my question to set everything up for all of you. Are potential offensive coordinators avoiding the Eagles not because of Jalen Hurts, but because they think Nick Sirianni is a dead man walking and they don't see the point of being here for a year working under a head coach whose days are numbered and then getting fired a year from now when the head coach gets fired as well, on top of maybe not having the autonomy they deserve, right? That's the other thing. It's kind of a combination of two, because the other is, do a lot of these guys think, hey, with everything we've seen with the Philadelphia Eagles and everything we've heard with Nick Sirianni, are they all thinking, you know what? If I'm going to take a job, especially in a situation where the head coach is on the hot seat, because let's face it, yes, despite all the success after this season, after 2023, everything, Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat. If the Eagles don't contend next year, Nick Sirianni may very well be gone. I think a lot of people forget how quickly Doug Peterson was let go despite winning a Super Bowl. So a lot of offensive coordinators be like, hey, if I'm going to go to Philly, especially if it's like a 1 year audition to maybe get something else somewhere else, I damn sure better have the autonomy to run the offensive scheme I want to run, to call the plays I want to call, and not just be the fall guy for Nick Sirianni, which leads to another problem with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get to that in a minute. And one thing I wanted to point also with this Nick Sirianni stuff, because I think this is also important in terms of Jalen Hurts, is we don't forget that Nick Sirianni, he did not even have any type of hot read, blitz answers built into the offense he was running until Kellen Moore came along and installed that last year. It wasn't there. It was all, the whole narrative was, of course, that Jalen Hurts couldn't beat the blitz, that Jalen Hurts didn't play well against the blitz. Turns out, when we got an offensive coordinator who installed answers to the blitz in his system, all of the sudden, Jalen Hurts is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL against the blitz. He was one of the best, both in 24 and in 25. Now, to be fair to the Philadelphia Eagles as well, in terms of all these people taking other jobs, is do not forget, just because the Eagles show interest in someone, just because the Eagles interview someone, does not mean that there was a job offer to that person and they turned it down. The Eagles may have gone through all the research and the interest and said, nah, they could have gone through the interview process and gotten into all that and said, you know what, by the end of the interview, said, you know what, this isn't the direction in which we want to go. We don't think this is a good fit. They could have even informed the person of that, said, hey, you know what, we appreciate you coming in. This was a great interview, but we think we're going to go in another direction. And then, just like people who get fired, but they're in a high profile position, they're allowed to resign. We're like, hey, you can go out and just say, you decided to do something else. You decided to stay somewhere else. You decided to go somewhere else. You just weren't interested. And we'll let you have that because it looks good for you going forward instead of saying, yeah, we interviewed this person. They're not it. Okay. That's the type of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. But we all know when it comes to the Eagles, especially with all the spin about Jalen Hurts that Nick Sirianni likes to use his media buddies for, because he never can take any responsibility for anything, which is another part of the problem, right? It's another part of the problem with the Eagles is that Nick Sirianni, that's let me back up a second. People are looking from the outside are looking and they've realized enough that you know what? Nick Sirianni is going to do what he wants to do. He's going to control the offense as much as possible. And he's going to use the offensive coordinator and he's going to use Jalen Hurts as his fall guys. And he's not going to take any responsibility for his failures. That is what we've seen from Nick Sirianni. And I always in the back of my mind, I have this little voice saying, don't do it, man. The Eagles have had this incredible stretch, and Nick Sirianni's been the head coach, and be careful what you wish for, and all of that. I do get that in the back of my mind, right? Because I think there probably is some truth to that. But the more I look at everything that's going on with the Eagles since Nick got here, I just I feel like it. I can't really completely explain it well. I guess I did a lot of it right there, but I just feel like Nick's been along for the ride and that we've had this success despite Nick Sirianni. And don't forget, this isn't talked about. Maybe I'll do another video on it. I'll go into more depth about the whole situation and why I think there's some real issues with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. But Nick Sirianni was brought in to be the Carson Wentz whisperer. Okay. Nick Sirianni, remember, Nick Sirianni was not brought in here to have Jalen Hurts be his number one. Jalen Hurts was not going to be QB1 when Nick Sirianni took the job. Nick Sirianni's job was to turn around the career of Carson Wentz. It was to be the Wentz whisperer. That's what his job was going to be. And obviously, that got completely changed around. The other thing I would add in trying to put a positive spin on it for the Eagles organization, the front office, Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, and so forth, is it could be a lot of this for them could be um, how should I phrase this? Fact gathering, I guess. They're going in depth with these interviews with all these different people, and what did you let's use Declan Doyle. What did you learn under Ben Johnson? What schemes? What are you running in these situations? What are you going to bring to the Philadelphia Eagles in with for Jalen Hurts and to get the most out of this team, right? Um, so I think there's probably a little bit of that as well. I think there's a lot of intel gathering and so forth. Um, you know, but I mean, really, a lot of these guys too could just say, "Hey, they want to avoid the circus." Goes back to what I was just saying about, who has it better than Nick Sirianni does with everything that I just said, right? He gets to run this really bad, ultra conservative to the point of negative offense that he likes to run in his scheme, and the QB and the offensive coordinator, and they take the blame for all this. He's got terrible local Philly sports media, 100% on his side, right? Anytime there are whispers of Nick Sirianni's job being in jeopardy, we get Jalen Hurts hit piece after Jalen Hurts hit piece out in the media. They're constantly attacking Jalen Hurts in order to take heat off of Nick Sirianni. Uh, what we need, and I don't know that we can get it, but fingers crossed it is possible. And I really don't care if it's At this point, I don't care if it's somebody younger who's a hot shot who's gonna be here for a year because they wanna go get a head coaching job, or it's somebody older who's gonna be the offensive version of Vic Fangio where they don't have any interest in coaching again. Because at this point, we gotta worry about 2026, and I really hope it's just someone that comes in that is given the freedom and the autonomy to run their offense and get Nick Sirianni's nose out of it. I'm going to leave you with the final quote that I thought was interesting from Tom Brady. Um, that he said the other day. He said, "That's what I want to make sure I have this right. That's what good coordinators do. They get their quarterbacks layups." And I'm wrapping this up. I'm gonna try and collect some video and film and maybe go into it a little bit. But to his point, it's just, and I see this more and more with Eagles fans and talking to them and everything. It's like, how do these other teams like they watch highlights of Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold, and it's like, how do these teams get these wide receivers who are good, but they're not? I mean, we've got Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert. How do they get these wide receivers running wide open? We never seem to get anybody open. How is that possible? But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you checking out the video. As always, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Really do appreciate it. Really, really helps out tremendously. And I will talk to you in the next video. Stay warm, Philly.